But I was thinking too, I was like, I feel like our society may be trying to go back to that place to where, well, let me say this. When it's starting to become okay for children to pick their sex, to say, oh, I'm this or I'm that, and they don't even know who they are, or, and the parents are agreeing to it and getting them on hormones and getting sex change operations at young ages when they don't even have a concept of anything. If they can make basically, I believe the argument is going to come in, if they can make a decision about that, then
they can consent.
There you go. And I feel like it's setting the stage for this, because there has been, and we're going to go into that on another episode, this whole pedophilia thing, because it's deep, y'all. It's then got crazy. But I believe a lot of this stuff that has been happening and building up is setting the stage for that. Because eventually, I really feel like people are going to be like, oh, well, I can marry a child. They can consent. Because it's like, if you can say this is who I am, and people agree with it and go ahead and start doing the process for you to change into that different sex, then come on. It's going in that direction.
I saw an article. God, I can't remember what country it was. I just read an article a couple of weeks ago where they were changing the consent age to 15.
So
it was somewhere. It was somewhere
too,
in Europe,
and I don't know where it was.
It was in Europe. I can't think what European country it was.
Maybe Germany, maybe France. I don't know.
I'm trying
to put everything on France, but France be nasty though.
They do be nasty. But
shout out to France.
Right. I want to come to the Eiffel Tower when we can lead a state, Lord Jesus, if ever. But I think that's a good point, Holly, because I remember, again, in my DSS days, and sexuality is such a tender topic, when we talk about this. So I definitely want to put this disclaimer out there before I make this statement. This is not any type of hate speech or whatever. This is my opinion and what I've seen and what I've been exposed to. But when you're talking about protecting the innocence of children, I think that also pertains to protecting the maturity of children. Yes. And it goes back to some of our laws. We have laws in this country that say you can't vote till you're 18. You used to couldn't buy cigarettes. Can't drive till you're 16. Yep. Now you gotta wait till you're 21 to buy cigarettes. I'm still confused about that, but hey, whatever. You can't drink until you're 21. And the reason why these laws are put in place is because somebody had a meeting of the minds that said, at this age, you should be able to operate a motor vehicle. And at this age, you should be cognizant enough to know how to vote your choice. And at this age, you can be responsible to consume an alcoholic beverage. So why? Somebody please explain to me why there is not an age limit on children being able to say, I want to be this. I want to be a frog. Baby, you a human. You can't be a frog. I know you love Kermit. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
We laugh at that because that's so absurd. We know that can't be. We know that can't be. So it's like you laugh at or shouldn't be. Yeah. No, that physically cannot be. So you can have sex changes. You can do these things to the exterior. It still doesn't change the genetic makeup of what you were born as. And when you allow a child who don't know what they want from minute to day, from hour to minute, to make a decision that impacts their whole life.
Whole life.
So, prime example, this wasn't my case, and I'm glad it wasn't my case, because I probably would have just been like, I'm over this. I probably, had I gotten this case, and they teach us in social work that we have to be very open-minded, and just the way the world is now, you got to be even more open-minded than you were before. But one of my coworkers had a case, and I don't know all the ins and outs of the case, but there were maybe 2 or 3 children. And so she was going to the house to talk with the family. And she's talking with the kids, and they're telling her the story of whatever allegedly took place, and yada, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And she said she noticed that the kids, I'm just going to throw a name out, they kept saying, yeah, because Tim wasn't here. And then Tim said, and so her not fully understanding, she thought that Tim was another child that just wasn't present at the home. Because sometimes you don't have all the details when people report. They may only tell what they know, so they may leave some kids out. So she was like, oh, okay, I got to find out, mental note to self, I got to find out who Tim is. Well, she later found out that Tim wasn't in fact another person. Tim was actually Tiffany, and Tiffany identified as male. And so they were calling her Tim because that's what she wanted to go by. Not only was her family calling her by this, but it was also something that was also being implemented in the school system as well. So they were identifying her as, or calling her as, Tim, we'll say, I don't even know I don't even know these kids' names. I just know the scenario. And so I remember my coworker telling me that the mom had said that, she was probably going to start her at, I don't know, whenever puberty started, because that's another key thing. Puberty hadn't started yet. Okay. So whenever puberty started, they were going to go ahead and implement, I think, hormone blockers. I just remember that day, and it wasn't my case. I didn't know these people. This is all secondhand information. I didn't know the ins and outs of what had taken place. I just knew essentially that I don't even remember anything. What I remember is what I just shared with you guys, because I was like, how would I have responded? Do I call this child by her government name? Do I call her by this name that she identifies as? And then I just started thinking about, she hasn't reached puberty yet, which, that brings on a whole other flood of hormones.
Yes.
And if you don't allow the body to naturally experience that, what does that even chemically do? Like, these are questions.
And they don't pills, care. That they got side effects.
And they don't care.
These are my questions, and this isn't my child, so I'm thinking about the physiological aspect of it. Like, what could happen if you stop puberty? Like, what happens if you don't allow the body to produce what it's naturally designed to do? And how do you allow a child? How does a parent allow a child to make a decision at 12 that could ultimately impact their whole life? So what happens at
and ain't no
18?
Could, it will.
It will impact.
So what happens when you get 18 and you realize, I ain't want to be Tim no more, I want to be Tiffany? How does that construct even go? You know what I mean?
And
like,
you don't know the health ramifications.
You don't know what for them pills and hormones.
And
you don't know what it's gonna produce in your body.
The Bible says this, but again, we're saying this, and y'all, we're speaking our own opinions, and this is not.
And it's from the child. Don't come for us. It's from the child aspect.
It's from the child aspect, not from the grown-up aspect. Okay. We're not talking about the adults. We're talking about children, okay?
Yes.
Because we're talking about the protection of children.
Absolutely.
And just common sense. And I know there's people from that community that don't believe children should be making certain decisions. So don't Don't do that.
Don't do it.
Don't do it to yourself.
Please.
But with me, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And for those people who think these doctors just care so much about the emotions of these children, and oh, you're going to harm them, and oh,
If
this
you don't
is
let
not
them do what
good
they
for
want to
them,
do.
let them do what they want to do. No, those doctors want that money. There are people who have invested thousands, millions into clinics to do this type of stuff. Okay. Because that's what they into. Right? Because they got the money and time and opportunity. Okay. And it's people that's addicted to the money. Look what they, and I ain't trying to be funny, but look what they did to Michael's nose, right? Like a plastic surgeon. I'm not trying. A plastic surgeon was like, you know what? You would look good if you just kind of bring it in. You don't like your nose, just bring it in a little bit. They kept working on Michael's nose till he had just nostril cavities right there. You know, just didn't have no nose whatsoever after it was all done. Why? Was it because they cared about the health and mental well-being about Michael? No, they wanted him to keep getting surgery because they kept getting the money. So y'all, we got that when it comes to protecting our children, you ain't got to go listen to a doctor tell you what to do with your kids, to tell you that you're not a good enough parent to know that you're doing some kind of harm. And this is why media influence is so important.
Does.
Because when you got a group, it's follow the money. When certain people start backing things and funding people's this and funding people's that, they're gonna get the backing, right? They're gonna be the ones that get spoken up for. It doesn't make it right. It don't make it right. It's just they're the ones with the money, so they're gonna be like, well, we're gonna go with this because they helped us fund this, so we're gonna advocate for this, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. So I just, when it comes to our protecting children, protect them. Stop worrying about all this gobbledygook and all this extra influence. It's like it's a sad day when we push against our own common sense, which we have to
that part.
convince ourselves against what we know don't make sense. It don't make sense
no
that
sense.
you can't drive a car till 16, can't vote till 18, but yet I'm gonna let you
at 11, 12,
younger than that. What was that show? I Am Jasmine. How old was that child? 6, 7? I don't know. You know, it was a young child that was a transgender child. That child looked way younger than 11, 12. But at whatever age, they're saying, go with it. Go with it. Just go all the way. Put them on medications. Start changing this. Start changing that. Let them. It's to me, that's abusive to a child. Teach them to love themselves, how they are, and say, baby girl, baby boy, I love you. You're not a mistake. If you don't like something about yourself when you get this age, you got the wherewithal, the funds, then you go for it. But right now, go ahead.
No, that's what I was, that part, because I think as a parent, that's where that part where you were talking about, Holly, with the covering and the leading and the steering. Okay, Tiffany, you want to be 10, whatever the case may be. That's not what I'm debating. Where my concern comes in is, as a parent, for you to say, I'm going to endorse this decision that allows this child to make a decision that's so detrimental to her ultimate life. Why not say what all of our mamas and daddies have probably told us at some point in time? You get 18, you get grown, and you get out my house. You do what you want to do. How about that?
How about it?
To me, that to me is what's more appropriate. When you become of age, when you're more mature, when you've had time to process this a little bit more, a fuller understanding. If this is something that you want to do, and I'm saying this to that mom, if this is something that she wanted to do, then at that time, okay, you have my support. Because clearly she has your support now at 11. But not not a day before that.
Yes.
And so I think, you know, when we talk about censor, there probably needs to be legislation and things starting to be started. There needs to be some form of legislation put in place that deals with what do you do, because now these are things that are happening. What do you do when you have a child that says, I identify as this? What is the legal age that a child can make a decision pertaining to sexuality for themselves? And this is not something that I think we've talked about because it's not been a part of our culture, but it is now. And now that it is here, then we have to address it, because that to me is protecting children.
Absolutely.
Because if you have parents that are special, then somebody has to step in and be a voice of reason that says, okay, let's wait a minute. Let's not go off the deep end here with hormones and this and that and that and this. All doctors aren't going to be like what April said. They're not all going to be they may have taken a Hippocratic oath, but they're not all going to be thinking about that. Some people are just going to be driven by green. And so for all the loopholes, it is our job as a society. It is the lawmakers, it is Congress' job to put things in place that protect children. The same way 80-something years ago, there were laws and labor acts put in place that protected children from doing hard manual labor, because we realized their bodies were not equipped to handle that type of responsibility. We need to do the same thing, because we realize they're mentally not there to make a decision of that magnitude at 11. Or 12.
And I think too, it just really shows the loosening of boundaries through time.
Right.
Because those parents that are making those decisions actually feel like they're doing it in the best interest of their child, because they have been subconsciously told by society that anything less would be you're harming the child if you try to keep them out of what they feel like they're supposed to be or whatever. And it's the same thing when we were talking about the sexualization of children. It's happened over time. We were talking about when there was one point where TV ended and now you can watch all night. There was one point when all they would do was for the sex scene was kiss, and then it would flash to the next day. You didn't even see nothing in between.
That's true.
Now
you get a play-by-play. You see my clothing and everything
on network television. So it's been, and over time it's been, and that's how the enemy worked. He don't do it all at one time. See, had he back in the 1950s tried to introduce something like children picking their own sexual their own sex or whatever, people would be like, what in the world? This is crazy. But
they weren't even sleeping in the same beds.
Come on. But now people are like, you know what? You're right. It'll harm them if we don't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's been this blinding, it's been this subtle just takeover over time.
Subtle.
Yeah. To where now things that would have used to been would have been that's ludicrous is now something that is considered to be okay. So
network TV, back to that point, when you were talking about they would kiss and go to another scene, then it got to the point where they started to get a little bit more. So you, even on the soap operas, I grew up watching soap operas.
Yeah, me too.
So
I was watching Young and the Restless.
Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turns, and God in Light. If you watch anything else and you didn't watch the real soap operas, I'm sorry. But you know, like we all watched it, so we know what those set scenes used to be about. You might see somebody kissing. You might see a scene where there's clothes on the floor. You might see people in bed under covers.
Yeah.
So you had to use your imagination for whatever took place in between that. I'm seeing on network TV, I was watching something and I was like, "Are they just show butt?"
Child.
Like, seriously, I was like, they just show butt, like butt crack. That used to
What?
be something that you could only see on cable.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah,
like,
it's crucial.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real.
I'm finna go off the grid. I'm finna
Go
take my
ahead.
kids. I'm gonna take my
Oh.
kids out to the woods.
Go to Alaska.
turn the cable off.
Because I can't lie, being a single woman who doesn't have children, that is one thing that I'm just like, I don't want to be scared out of having kids, but I Claire, with the way this world is, it just be like, I'll just be like, Lord,
Right.
I want to bring some into this world, but at the same time, I'll just be like, Father, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's very crucial. It's very
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah.
And I have to always tell myself, when it comes to my babies, that they were born for a time such as this.
Yeah, they
Lord,
can handle it.
give
Yeah.
them what they have the mindset. They're gonna have to have good decision making skills and have the ability to know when to say no. And I ain't
Yeah.
doing that. And it takes a lot of instilling of the parents, and
Right.
it's a lot of work,
Ooh, I
it's
could.
a
Yeah,
lot of work
oof,
because
just thinking about it.
you got so much working against you. See, y'all brought up like the
Yeah.
1950s, where in the 1950s where there was not network television working against what you were teaching. The
Yeah.
traditional values
Nor the
were
schools. Now they working
right.
against.
The traditional values were being reinforced
Right.
Yes,
in
they
the whether
were.
it was real or not, because people said, well, people
Hmm.
did bad stuff back then too. They did.
Of
Yeah, they
But
course.
did.
but what was reinforced was the good, the wholesome, the
Hmm.
that type of thing. Like Sweet said, two actors that played husband and wife still couldn't sleep in the same bed because they weren't
Yeah.
really husband and wife on the show, right? Up
Hmm.
until like latter years. I remember when I think on Lucille Ball, even though they actually, well, no, they weren't even, were they married? They were always married, I think, in real life. Well, whatever.
Oh yeah.
But that they had separate beds, and then they end up having, when they finally was in the bed together. But society, media used to reinforce that. But now
Yeah.
with children, you have everything else working against
I'm telling you.
what you may be teaching at
Right.
home.
Right.
So that
Mm,
takes extra work from the parent because you don't
man.
have stuff reinforcing. Matter of fact, don't mess around and have a religious background, and that could be Christian, Muslim, anything
Hmm.
considered conservative, right? Any
Hmm.
Right.
conservative values, whether religious or not, you have someone coming against and saying that that's bad, right?
Right.
And what
Yeah.
we're talking about is good, right? And that's
Hmm.
oppressive, and we're liberated.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Come
saying?
And
on.
antiquated.
And antiquated. And
Yes.
so you're going to tell a young girl that to be liberated and free
Mm,
spirited is to twerk and to and
yeah.
to wear not age appropriate clothing and have on a
Mhm.
whole bunch of makeup, and you're only 11 or 12. That's free and liberated, right?
Yeah.
Rules, boundaries, protections. Ugh, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I get it. I do understand why some new parents or people who will become parents that are not parents yet are just like, Lord, how much worse can it get?
Don't ask.
Jesus.
Don't
But
ask.
please don't.
Right, 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 right,
Oh,
right, right.
God. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I mean, and just how hard it is on the parents because, like you said, raising them and then you trying to hold down a job and keep that going. And then I'm
Right.
pretty sure a lot of things slip through the cracks because you just
Oh
ain't got the
yeah.
time to do a bunch of monitoring on a
Hmm.
day in to day out basis. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It just comes down, and then that's what makes you be more restrictive. That's so then you
Mm,
did that's what make you say, okay, by X amount of time the TV need to be off. Oh, and all the games
Mm.
need to be put up and turned off. Like my son now, and I thank God for it. My baby boy, he won't download nothing. He don't if it's a new Netflix show, he'll
mhm.
say, Mommy, this is rated Y7. Can I watch this? He literally came up to me today and did that.
Oh
Why does he do
wow.
that? Because I instilled in him, I don't want you
Mhm.
watching this. I don't like this.
Yeah.
This is rated this. Let me see what is rated. Come to me.
Yes.
And they will. That you know, you train them in that way, you know, they will. And if you catch them not well, you know what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Get them right, and continue. Let them know you love them, and it's for their protection, because you're trying to raise them to be a good human being. And everything on TV is not what's teaching you good, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's crazy. And I think, you know, too, you know, I guess parents do also have to fight against that whole notion of being their friend versus being, you know, because some parents just allow their children to make too many decisions on their own, like because they want to be more of a friend, or, you know, so they don't really do the
Being a
whole
child's
boundary
friend is
piece.
overrated.
Yeah.
That ain't
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah. Well, I think we have exhausted these outtakes, but we just wanted to go into a little bit more in depth on the conversation, and we got more to come in next season where we're gonna be going even deeper in this subject. So stay tuned with us, people.
Great.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Deuces.